we're very pleased to have 7 colleges represented tonight, and we're going to be having an excellent panel. So for the format, we're going to start off with a general session where we're all together. And then we will move into 2 breakout sessions. We're going to have 3 of the colleges in one of the sessions, and the other 4, and just so you know, so it's going to be Johns Hopkins, WashU, and University of Chicago will be in room number 1, and room 2 will be University of Maryland, Indiana University, Tulane University, and Towson University. And you will be able to self-select which room you would like to go into. So, I'd like to go ahead and welcome our panelists. So from WashU in St. Louis, we have Emma Adebayo. From University of Maryland, we have Ryan Clear. From Johns Hopkins University, we have Bailey Jacqueline. From Tulane University, we have Owen Knight. From Towson University, we have Melissa Stoker. From University of Chicago, we have Lauren Barlow. And from Indiana University at Bloomington, we have Jill Shimek. And I'm so pleased to have our moderator for tonight, Jennifer Taylor, who's a Wooten guidance counselor. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Taylor.
Good evening. Thank you all so much for being here this evening. As Mr. Rabin said, we do have a fabulous group of panelists here. I'm going to start out by having them each take about 2 minutes to tell you a little bit about their school, and then we will go into some general questions. So Emma, if you would like to start out and let us know a little bit about WashU.
Yes, good evening. My name is Emma Adebayo. I serve as an associate director at Washington University in St. Louis, and I have the great pleasure of serving students who are attending high schools in the greater DMV area. Washington University is considered a medium-sized private Research One institution. We are a highly selective institution, but one of the things that attracts many of our students is the fact that we do have 5 undergraduate academic divisions, and we are able to directly admit students into those divisions. So you get to explore in your area of interest right away, whether it's in our McKelvey School of Engineering, our Olin Business School, our College of Art, Architecture, or our College of Arts and Sciences. But one of the best parts about picking your academic division is it doesn't stop you from, of course, taking courses in any of the other 4 areas as it interests you. We also do meet 100% of a student's demonstrated financial need, which means we do have the ability for families whose annual income is less than $75,000 to fully fund and cover the cost of attendance at WashU. We also are well known for many of our programs, but especially many of our graduate level programs, which include our law school, our medical school, and our Brown School of Social Work, as well as other master and PhD degree programs affiliated with our 5 undergraduate academic division. We have about 19 men and women Division III NCAA sport teams with 23 national titles and counting, and over 400 student groups that our students are able to get involved with, which run the gamut from fraternity and sorority life, which is about 20% of our campus participating in that, to performing arts groups, to other groups based on a student's affinity, so identity or aspects of their identity that they're interested in exploring and or want to learn more about, as well as religious life and other things. So look forward to sharing, of course, more details about WashU, but thank you so much for the opportunity to be here this evening.
Jen, you're on mute.
Oh, so sorry. You would think by now I would know how to work this. We're going to hear from Ryan from University of Maryland next.
All right, good evening, everybody. I was muted. Hopefully you still wanted to hear from me. So again, my name is Ryan Clear. I oversee Montgomery County for the University of Maryland. So what does that mean? So that means I do not review every single application in Montgomery County. As you know, you are by far the biggest. So if I had to do that, I would have to probably start today if we wanted to make it, done by February 1 when we release decisions. What this really means is I'm going to be kind of your point person, your middle contact. If you have any question about the university, I am a graduate, as I'm sure a lot of other, of you are. So I don't need to say too much about UMD because I'm sure you know a lot about it, but we are the biggest school in the state of Maryland as well as in the DC area. We have 30,000 undergraduate students ranging across 12 academic colleges. So, some of the most popular, are the Smith School of Business, the Clark School of Engineering, School of, Public Policy, Computer Science, but we are a large R1 institution. So we have 30,000 undergraduate students and 10,000 graduate students. We do not have a medical school associated directly with UMD. That is in the USM system. I think some of the things that set UMD apart, again, I don't want to say a lot of things, but I think is just that big environment. We are a member of the Big Ten Athletic Conference. I'm sure a lot of you have been familiar with our games, but you're just going to get that proximity to Washington, D.C. As the Purple Line eventually makes its way to campus, it's going to be even more accessible to get into the nation's capital, which is just going to make your life so much, not only more fun, but also, of course, just in terms of networking opportunities, research opportunities, and of course, internship opportunities are just immense in the district. But yeah, I'll turn it over. You guys probably know a lot about UMD. So.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Melissa from Towson.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Stoker, and I'm one of the admissions counselors at Towson University. I do work with all students who attend high school in Montgomery County, so I would definitely be your students' admissions counselor if they decide to apply to Towson. Kind of like UMD, you're probably a little bit familiar with Towson already, but we do have about 23,000 students at Towson, so we are the second largest in Maryland and the largest in the Baltimore area. About 18,000 of those students are undergraduate students, and it's nice because you get some of those big school opportunities like having a Division I sports and having all kinds of internship opportunities, but at the same time, your average class size is only about 26 students. So you really get to know your professors, you're not just a face in the crowd, and you get to be a part of those engaging discussions in your classes. So we are right outside of Baltimore, like I mentioned, so we are right actually 1 mile over the Baltimore city line, so you have access to everything there, like the internships, jobs, but also fun things like festivals and concerts. But we're actually in the small city of Towson, which is really a bustling area as well. We have a really nice uptown Towson area that's walkable from campus. So there's always something going on around campus. And then we do have about 60 undergraduate majors. So all kinds of things to choose from. And students do not have to pick a major when they're applying to Towson because we are major blind. So they do have the flexibility to change their major at any time throughout the process. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to the next person.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Jill from University of Indiana.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. My name is Jill Shimmick. I'm a Senior Assistant Director of Admissions for Indiana University, and I work with students from the entire state of Maryland. IU is a large public research institution. We're located in Southern Indiana, about an hour south of Indianapolis. It's about an hour and 15-minute flight from any of the DC area airports into Indianapolis, and then that hour down into Bloomington. Bloomington's a small city. We have about 80,000 year-round residents in Bloomington, Indiana, and over 44,000 students. So it definitely is that quintessential college town feel. It's a foodie city. So if you or your student love to eat, come join us as we eat our way through Bloomington every year. But IU itself is known for a number of different programs. We offer over 200 majors. There's lots of flexibility for students to explore all of their interests. Over 60% of our students will graduate with more than one major. So lots of opportunities for certificates and minors, as well as even double majors. Fun fact, IU, of course, out here is known for its Kelley School of Business and Jacobs School of Music, but we also offer more languages than any other public institution in the United States. So if you have a student who's interested in language learning, we're a great place to explore. I'd love to talk more with you or your student, and I can be reached through our website if anyone has any questions. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jill. Next up, we're going to hear from Bailey from Hopkins.
All right. Hello, everyone. I am thrilled to be a part of your evening. My name is Bailey Jacklin. I'm an Assistant Director of Admissions at Johns Hopkins University. I am also your point of contact as students and families from Montgomery County. Johns Hopkins University is the nation's first research institution, and we are located in Baltimore City, about 45 minutes to an hour away from you all, depending upon the traffic. We are part of the vast university network, complete with the hospital and medical complex, the Bloomberg School of Public Health, which has certainly been in the forefront of the news over the last year, the Peabody Music Conservatory, and graduate schools for education and international studies. But I represent the undergraduate institution, where we are a mid-sized private research institution that is founded in the liberal arts. There's a lot of opportunities for hands-on learning. 98% of our students are going to do research. They're going to take a robust liberal arts curriculum and really learn how to combine their unique interests across arts, science, and engineering. And they're going to do so on that mid-sized campus around student engagement in our traditional campus environment in an urban institution like Baltimore, and take advantage of all things the city has to offer. Excited to answer your questions today.
Thank you. Next up, we have Lauren from UChicago.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here. My name is Lauren Barlow. I'm an Assistant Director of Admissions and Director of Black and African American Outreach at UChicago. The University of Chicago is a medium-sized liberal arts college within the major research institution that is the University of Chicago. There's a lot of overlap, I think, sometimes following Johns Hopkins, but at UChicago, students spend about a third of their time completing our core curriculum that spans across the liberal arts and sciences, while also having really ready access to incredible research opportunities right on campus in our over 150 different research centers. So lots to right on campus, but then affiliations with labs all across the country and across the world. We're about 7 miles south of downtown Chicago. So while we are in Chicago proper, we are in the Hyde Park neighborhood of the city of Chicago, and you get a little taste of campus behind me. So you get that residential college campus feel when you're walking around campus. You'll see faces that you recognize, your professors, many of them live right around in the Hyde Park area. We have over 450 different student organizations, lots to get involved with, from athletics to Greek life to various affinity groups for cultural identity groups. And happy to chat more about the University of Chicago, lots to unpack. So you could reach out to us through our website, or reach out for, if you look online, my contact information is there, and I am your regional admissions counselor.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, we have Owen from Tulane. And I think Owen is just getting here. Hello,
Yeah,
Owen.
I had 7:35 on my calendar. I'm so sorry if I'm late.
Guess what? You are right on time because it's your turn. And if you can just take about 2 minutes and tell us a little bit about Tulane, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good evening, folks. Sorry, I'm a little exactly on time. My name's Owen Knight. I'm Associate Director of Admission here at Tulane in New Orleans. From Bethesda, actually, I went to Walt Whitman across town, so very familiar with Montgomery County. Yeah, so Tulane is a medium-sized research institution, and for me, it was the perfect size. Transitioning from an MCPS school, I thought it was wonderful because I was able to get a new social experience, have around 8,000 students, and have Division I football, and have some of the stereotypical things that I was looking for in college, but in a very intimate, personalized academic experience. Our average class size is just 22 students, student to faculty ratio of 8:1. So I was able to get a much better personalized touch in the classroom than I did at Whitman. And that really helped me in my classes. And I really loved that. We get students from all 50 states, over 60 different countries. And being in New Orleans, it is certainly a very interesting place to go to college. A lot of festivals, over 365 festivals a year in Louisiana. So never, you're not just restricted to just fraternity parties and football games for your social life. You have a lot going on. And at the same time, there's also internship opportunities and a lot going on here in the city. We have a huge medical field here in New Orleans, a lot of startup companies, fun little like lagniappe, as we say in Louisiana, a little something extra has been the film industry here in New Orleans. They film a lot of movies here, TV shows on campus, things like that. And plus, having such a national network on our campus, you've got students all over the country, connections to be made all over the country for those summer internships or for your first job. You're not necessarily going to just decide between the DMV and New Orleans. Our campus is very bustling. Students, definitely, I think we generally attract students who are involved and obviously are very academically driven and care about school, but they don't only care about school. They are motivated by their passions and they like to continue playing their instruments or their sports, getting involved in service, eating around New Orleans, getting a job at a restaurant, and just maintaining a nice work-life balance in their life. And I think we lack some of the cutthroat atmosphere on our campus, academically speaking. It was a breath of fresh air after kind of graduating from Whitman. I'll just leave it at that. But I'm excited to be here. Apologies again if I messed up the time, but I look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much. So the way we're going to run the panel is I will ask a question to one of the panelists. And then for the other panelists, if you have anything different to share than what the original panelists shared, if you could please just pop in and add to that. So I'm going to start out, and the first question will be for Emma. If you can share with us how COVID has impacted the application and testing process at your institution.
Yes, I hopefully my answer results in my favorite word, ditto, from all of my colleagues. But I will say, in terms of testing and COVID, with the inability for students to perhaps pursue things such as the ACT or SAT, we of course went to a test optional application year. And that is something that we will continue on for the class of 2026, or this year's current juniors or soon to be seniors, in terms of applying to WashU. But overall, in terms of our process, it is a holistic process where I equate it to a parfait. There are a lot of layers to you as a student, and we are excited to learn more about you and all of those layers. And how we get to know a little bit more about you, of course, is us leaning in and looking really closely at your transcript to understand your academic preparation and the rigor, so the difficulty of the coursework that you sought throughout high school, looking at your essays, looking at your extra or co-curricular activities and things of that nature, letters of recommendation. So really still having all of those pieces there allowed us to move into a year where we did not have testing to not be as unpredictable or as concerning. Your school counselors do a really great job of providing something known as a school profile to us. So if for some reason I just was unfamiliar with the district and what was available to you, that school profile provided really great details and information about the district, the area, and your academic preparation, which is something that's really key, I would say, specifically to WashU in terms of what we are looking at. But again, knowing that a lot of the pieces that we normally look at were present, as well as knowing that, of course, the pandemic, or Panera, as I've been calling it lately, whatever people you want there, has impacted students greatly. The other piece that we've appreciated is the fact that applications like the Common Application, Coalition Application, and QuestBridge Application, which are 3 application types that we accept, also included things like a COVID-19 section, which allowed you guys to provide more context about how specifically the pandemic has impacted you. So ultimately for us, while it felt a little weird not to have things like test scores available to us, it still allowed us to move forward and still continue to admit the best and brightest class that we can to WashU.
Anyone want to add anything to that? Okay. Our second question, I'll have Ryan answer this one. As you project forward to the upcoming school year, will the number of in-person classes be affected due to the rise of virtual learning?
At UMD, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Yeah, so no, yes and no. Of course, I think we all kind of witnessed what the pandemic's kind of been, and it's not been fun in terms of virtual learning. I'm actually in virtual class at the moment right now, so I could tell you that. But as we going forward, UMD, we are planning on opening fully in the fall. Now there might be special circumstances where we allow people could take virtually, but we're trying to go all things going ahead. We're back to in-person, everything back to, you can go cheer on football games, all that kind of, capacity. That also means I think they're, professors are going to start to take advantage of some of the stuff. We realized sometimes we don't always have to meet in person in terms of effectiveness. Now, of course, we understand the vitality of having in-person lectures and having that ability. I think some components now, instead of meeting all across campus to get together as a group, they're going to say, hey, let's, do your breakout rooms and your Zoom rooms when you're beating your own group assignments in the library. But UMD, we're planning on going forward back in person. Hopefully everything returns to normal in August.
Okay, the next question will be for Bailey. As a result of COVID, our students feel like they're less prepared for the rigors of college. What have you seen at your school as it relates to first-year students' performance?
So when thinking about the last year, and there's still a lot that students are going to be assessed on as the year wraps up, I think this, like in any other year, the students who are going to be most successful are those who reach out and utilize the resources that are there for them. And those resources have gotten more creative in the last year, more office hour opportunities with faculty, with your advisors, with your first year experience team. And I'm sure some of my colleagues might have similar organizations whereby we know the orientation process isn't done at the end of August. There are so many firsts that go throughout your entire first year, and this year certainly had a lot of them, including the reintroduction of students to campus several months after they would have in a normal year. And so there were unique challenges to this year, but I would encourage you to think that when you approach your college experience, when you get that acceptance letter from a place that has read your application, you were accepted for a reason. You did make it. We have confidence in you and your success. So first have confidence in yourself, and then take advantage of the opportunities that you have to connect with your peers in peer study groups, with your faculty, with your staff, and that will help guide that experience there for you. And knowing that where you are in your experience right now, I know you have resources like this in MCPS. So those of you that are reaching out for additional help from your counselors, from your teachers, those are great ways to already be practicing those skills.
Thank you. I'm just going to kind of give a pause in case anyone else wants to jump in. Our next question will be for Owen. A number of colleges have publicized test optional. Can you provide some clarity on your assessment process for applicants who choose not to test? How you're looking at kids versus the ones that do test? And then, and this might be for all of you, do you know if test optional will be here to stay for your schools?
Yeah, we can start with the second half. We can just do a show of hands who's test optional for this upcoming class for 2026, this coming fall. Okay, so we all are. To be honest, I was very nervous about us going test optional. Tulane was not test optional prior to COVID, and people with pay grades way, way, way above me, you know, they like the rankings, they like the scores. I was a little nervous that students who were test optional were going to be, you know, viewed potentially as less than or have a detriment in the application process. So I was nervous. Like a year ago, I was very about that, but I'm happy to report that that did not end up being the case. You know, optional truly did mean optional. 40% of our accepted students were test optional applicants. They still received merit-based scholarships. Test optional students still won our Dean's Honor Scholarship, our Paul Tulane Award, our full tuition scholarships. So that did not hinder them. I think someone was speaking earlier how it is challenging in some ways, just since on paper with transcripts, a lot of students now look pretty similar and have similar GPAs, and it removes a shortcut for colleges. But I think at the end of the day, that ends up being a good thing. We're able to take a better read on students and actually get to know them and understand their resumes, read their letters of recommendation, and really find the right people and not just rely on that, you know, 2-digit, 4-digit number to kind of help us along the way. So optional, in my experience, and hopefully for everyone else on the panel, it really has meant optional. And some schools have taken it a step further and gone completely test blind as well. But I can't say I wasn't nervous before, but I was very pleased how the year went, and I can sleep soundly knowing that any student applying this coming year, if they have chosen not to test or they haven't been able to, it is not going to hold them back necessarily. And we will not assume the worst. You're not going to be compared head to head with someone who does have a test score. That's the biggest thing. I think the way you phrase that question, it's hard to not worry that like, oh, they're going to see that I don't have a score and somebody else has a 31. Am I going to be viewed as worse? Like, no, it's just different. We're using different things, and it's not like, obviously if you were pulled off a 35 or whatever, like that's never going to look bad. Like obviously a good test score, deans are going to love to see that, but not having a score, we are not going to assume, oh, that they're hiding that they got a 12 or something. You know, that's not where our brains are going to go, especially with the pandemic. Obviously, like we know it's been such a pain. So rest assured, like know what schools are test optional, what schools are test blind, what schools require, and also know that, you know, you might not send a score to me, but you might end up sending one to a different institution. So it's not a one size fits all. I am a test optional applicant, period. It can vary so much, and your strategy can change school to school.
Thank you. I think that last point is a very important one. And for you juniors who are in the audience, your counselors, we're going to help you figure out if you do have test scores, if you do want to send them or not. So please know that we will support you in that process. Okay, our next question is going to go to Melissa, and the next few questions are going to be around academics. So can you please tell us what you look for in a student's transcript? Do you consider the number of AP classes taken? Is there a certain number of AP classes that you're looking for? Obviously, a school like Wooten, we offer many APs.
Yeah, that's a great question. So at Towson, we don't count AP classes. Some colleges through admissions, they will count how many AP classes or IB classes or dual enrollment classes that you have. And that might result in like a certain point system. We don't do that at Towson, but it is something that some colleges do. But while we don't count them, we certainly look at them and we certainly value them. And I will also say that when we look at your GPA, at least with us, we look at your weighted GPA, which is the one that takes into consideration your AP classes. So by taking multiple AP classes, you're automatically going to have a stronger weighted GPA, which is going to make you more competitive for admission. So in that way, it certainly matters. We want to see that you're challenging yourself and taking those classes. That being said, also you want to make sure that you kind of do some self-reflection, make sure that you are doing the right thing for you. We don't want to see a student that's taking all standard classes and getting straight A's, but we also don't want to see a student that's taking all AP classes and getting straight D's. So we want a balance of what works for you as a personal student and challenge yourself, but not to the point where you are just struggling and you cannot be successful because, you know, it's going to tell us that you're not ready for that college coursework yet. So I think there's a benefit in taking it, and definitely it'll benefit you in terms of admission, but also in preparing you for college as well. But just, I think the biggest thing is to know yourself and find that balance when you're scheduling your classes.
Thank you. Seeing a lot of heads nodding. We have a lot of agreement there. Okay, our next question is for Lauren. Can you please talk about the importance of extracurricular activities, leadership positions, and community service in the admissions process?
Absolutely, happy to. So sort of like the other components that we've been talking about, it's one piece of the larger conversation at UChicago and many other institutions, where we're trying to see not only what you might contribute to the classroom and academically, but also what you might engage with outside of the classroom, because there is a lot of time outside of just classroom time and thinking about how someone might contribute to the overall campus community or the community around us, for example, in Chicago. That being said, there are lots of different ways that students can demonstrate leadership potential, potential for involvement, things of that nature. It could range from being involved in sort of a more traditional school activity like a debate team or a mock trial team, or some students, a lot of their extracurricular time is spent taking care of a younger sibling or taking on a lot of family responsibilities. That is an extracurricular activity. So even though it might not look like a traditional school activity that you get a yearbook photo for or whatever that might be, you're still doing stuff. You're showing the college that I'm engaged, I am taking on maybe a leadership role in the house, and creative and problem solving, whatever that might be there. I just like to give that example to say there are many ways that students can demonstrate that potential for leadership involvement, what have you, in college. With that, I feel like I have to acknowledge this year and the past year and the future and the coming year, things look different. We recognize that, similar to sort of what my colleagues have been saying. We realize things look different, and we're not here to penalize students for a show being canceled, for sports being canceled, whatever it might be. We are adapting to that. And so maybe during the pandemic, household responsibilities increased, or an opportunity that you were previously, you got an internship, but that no longer was offered. We understand. And as previously mentioned as well, those sections on that ask how COVID has impacted you or your family, academically, outside, that's a great place to share some of that information if you feel like it's important for us to know how your life has shifted, or maybe more responsibilities, you had to take on a job or you lost a job. Those are all great things to fill us in on so that we can get as complete of a picture as possible. So we know you're up to something outside of the classroom, whether virtually or in person. We just want to know what it is, and there's not one size fits all or a perfect formula for demonstrating that.
Thank you. All right, Jill, if you can talk a little bit about how you all view world language credits and the number of years you would like to see on a transcript, understanding that many of our students take 1 or 2 years in middle school, and so they're wanting to know if those middle school credits count in terms of applying.
That's a good question, and I don't have a great answer for it. The longer you talk to admissions counselors, the more frequently you're going to hear it depends. And so that answer is going to be different for every single one of us who's on the panel tonight. At IU, we do count language taken in middle school. We require 2 years. I think 2 years at a lot of schools is going to be that baseline, but if we can see more, that'd be great. Most of us have world language requirements at the collegiate level. And so if you can prepare more in high school, it's only going to serve you well when you get to college. I know another great question to ask at a lot of schools is, or that I get asked a lot, is if we count American Sign Language as a foreign language. And at IU we do, and I think that more and more schools are counting ASL as a foreign language. So that's definitely something to check with. If there's a school on your list and you can't find the answer online, reach out to someone like one of us so that we can answer that for you for the specific schools that you're thinking about.
Does anyone have any other requirements in terms of world language, or is it pretty much the 2 years and you all accept middle school credits? Yes.
More open is that Hopkins, we don't require language for admission or for graduation. If something's on your transcript, generally we're looking at your grades 9th grade forward. If it's middle school grades are there, it could help establish that you've taken those courses, but since it's not a requirement, it's not something that we actually have to have worked into our review process. It's just very different.
I would just add that we follow your high school's graduation requirements. So if you graduate from high school, we've admitted you and you're going to be coming in, assuming you didn't do anything like fail all of your senior year classes or something like that. But if you graduate from high school, that's our baseline for you in terms of the requirements that we have. We also don't require a world language for most of the majors at Towson. That's the difference between a Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Arts, at least at Towson. You get a Bachelor of Arts if you took languages. You get a Bachelor of Science if you didn't. So that's the difference at our institution. So something to keep in mind.
Thank you. I know some of you are putting questions in the chat. If you can hold off from that for now, we are going to go into breakout rooms where you'll be able to ask specific questions because I'm unable to monitor the chat room. So I apologize about that. Our next question is for Emma. Emma, our seniors have the option to take several different senior schedules. They can take a full load of classes that include honors and AP. They can do a dual enrollment program with Montgomery College, or they can do an internship. Do you look at one of those more highly than any of the others?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've worked a few places, so definitely the answer overall, I would say it depends, but generally speaking for WashU, we're not going to look at one and view it as more worthy or better than another. Every student is on their own individual path. And for us, what we need to determine is how we can support students as they consider us as a post-secondary option. And so we're definitely not going to, again, take one over the other, but we do encourage students to, of course, be mindful of admission requirements. Generally speaking, we are looking for a college prep curriculum. We do adhere to what meets graduation requirements for the school. So that also kind of helps thinking about like that foreign language piece. We don't really require it. So this would be a similar kind of situation. Ultimately, just college prep. What I would say is, as we think about areas that a student may want to go into, let's say business, for example, we would hope that you are seeking the highest math available to you, and that might include things like calculus. If the student was looking at things like engineering or pre-health field, we would hope that they have, again, exposure to things like calculus and physics. If you were thinking art or architecture, maybe an art class. So again, really for us, it's about a college prep curriculum. And if you're able to complete that and of course, pursue an opportunity like an internship, that's great. And we hope that you'll communicate to us and share with us more about that internship and the things that you learned throughout the various spaces in your application.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a couple questions about admissions. So Ryan, if you can talk about the different admissions deadlines that Maryland offers and explain what those are. A lot of our juniors understand early action, rolling, those types of things, but I know we have some sophomore families here and these terms are probably new to them.
So I'll keep it simple for just what UMD has, and the other schools with the other deadlines can jump in just to, so we don't confuse and they hear one and they associate with me. So Maryland, we're pretty straightforward. We have two. We have early action and we have regular decision. The reason why any presentation that you'll hear from me or from our office, and you'll really only see one deadline, is we take 90% of our class from early action. So it's to your benefit to apply early. You're a lot harder to get in. It's a lot of, you're not eligible for scholarships. You're not eligible for the honors college. Pretty straightforward. So November 1, early action. You don't have to come to Maryland if you don't want to. It's not a binding contract. It's as long as you apply by August, the application opens in August, as long as you apply by October 31st, you are in that pool. It's not to your advantage to apply earlier in the deadline.
Does somebody want to, Lauren, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I can jump in with early decisions. So UChicago, we decided to say, why not? Let's have all of them. But really, we have November 1, we have early action, as Ryan mentioned. That's non-binding. You can apply to us, apply to other schools, early action. Just make sure that the other schools you're applying aren't early act or like restrictive early action or early action restricted. You'll see that term sometimes. That means, well, it's not a binding agreement where if you're admitted, you have to attend. You can't apply to other schools during that round. So just be clear on that restriction if a school is early action restricted. We are not. You can apply to us, apply to other schools, early action. So we have early action, which is non-binding, and then early decision, November 1, that is binding. You're saying, if I'm admitted, I will attend. So you want to make sure that you do your due diligence, you check that net price calculator, you make sure that financially it'll make sense for your family to make that commitment. And you've done all that work, and you know, UChicago or whatever school you're looking at, early decision, that if you're admitted, you will attend, you're excited to go there, that's your number 1 choice. Then January 1st, we have 2 different deadlines. Early decision 2 works the same way as early decision 1. It's just a later round. You're making that binding agreement. If I'm admitted, I will attend. And then regular decision, non-binding. It's not a commitment. If you're admitted, you can wait until May 1st to let us know whether or not you would like to attend. So the easiest way I break it down is November 1st and January 1st, we both have a binding and non-binding round.
Does anybody have a rolling admission?
We have kind of a hybrid rolling admission. We have deadlines. We have early action, which is December 1st. We have regular decision, which is January 15th. But we kind of have this hybrid rolling decision because we don't hold decisions as they're made. As soon as an admissions decision is made, we send out the letter to you. And we typically start reviewing applications right before Thanksgiving. So with the first batch of letters will go out then and then continue to go out until the class is full and we stop making decisions. So that's our hybrid model. We don't have real rolling admissions because we do have deadlines, but we never hold letters essentially.
We do the same.
Thank you. For my schools that do have the early decision, and then I guess maybe I can ask it for the early action schools. Is there an advantage? I know Ryan said that, the majority of the students are accepted in that early action deadline pool. Is that the same for early decision? Do you guys tend to take more students from the early decision? Is it better to apply early?
I think better is a hard word to use there because it is just very different. I think many universities early decision has limited scholarship options. If schools like Tulane, for example, we do give out merit-based scholarships, and there is a lot more money to go around in our early action pool compared to our early decision pool. But depending on your version of better, it does have a higher acceptance rate. So it really is that decision calculus you need to sit down and have as a family as to whether, the potential bump in your chances of getting in is worth the potential financial ramifications, and also feeling 100% confident that a school is your number 1 choice by November 1st or whatever the deadline is. That can be tricky as well. So I think most schools will likely tell you that ED has a higher acceptance rate than the non-binding options, just given the nature of the binding agreement. But it really is a tricky decision for each family that you should go into, very specifically. Something we say a lot is like, a lot of juniors say, like, I want to apply ED somewhere, but I don't know where. Like, you should really feel strongly about the school rather than the deadline, is my personal opinion on that.
Thank you. Okay, and our final question for the general question portion of the evening. Jill, I'm going to give this one to you, and it's about the college essay. If you can please talk about what you like to see in an essay. Do you evaluate content, student voice? Are you looking at it in terms of the writing sample of how well they can write?
I think every person who reads an essay reads for different things, even within our offices. So I've worked with people who are grammatical sticklers, right? And I think overall, though, we're looking for student voice. We're looking to hear a story that lets us know more about the student than what we get from a transcript. Or a set of test scores, or even a list of activities. So we don't want it to be a regurgitation of what's already on the application, but something that shows us the richness and depth of the student. I would love to get other people's feedback on this, because I've been reading for IU for almost a decade, and we only have one essay question, and it's why IU. And so, of course, I always tell students you should be able to write the why you're interested in X college for every school that you're applying to, right? There should be a reason that the school is on the list. And so that's always the advice I give for our essay. But since we don't review the Common App personal statement or anything like that, I would love for others to chime in regards to that.
Well, I will say UChicago is known for having some unique essay prompts as our supplemental essays. We do have the Why UChicago essay, but we also ask you things like find X, or where's Waldo really? Don't write about reverse psychology, or you're on a voyage in the 13th century and you fall off the edge of the earth, what happens? There are some weird questions. We're not pranking students. This isn't to mess with you. There's no right answer. It's essentially a chance for us to just see that willingness to engage. Again, no right answer, but it's a chance for you to have fun, do something a little bit different, and to think about it more of a creative writing piece or something that you might do for an English assignment versus a more traditional college essay or college application essay. So I think it does get a little bit to that sense of fit. UChicago is a place where we do read to fit, to see, is this a student that might be excited to be a part of the UChicago community? And that engagement on those essays, the UChicago Uncommon essay or the Why UChicago essay, the personal statement, it gives us a sense of, are they excited about UChicago? Are they willing to engage? Another thing I like to mention is that, you want to spend time on these essays. While the personal statement is important, it gives us a chance to hear your voice. Those supplemental essays, don't leave them to the last day, because that is your place, especially on the Common App or the Coalition application, where you can speak directly to the school and say, hey, I'm putting in the time and the effort to say I'm excited. And so again, don't wait till the last minute to work on those. Those applications open in the summer, and you have a chance to just look through it and see what questions are you excited to answer and to start thinking about it. It doesn't need to be, again, like many other schools, we'll start reading when the deadline hits. So it's not advantageous to submit the day after the application goes live, but take your time, do some drafts, have someone else read it, see if they can hear your voice. And that's what we're looking for. Additionally, things like grammar, we want to make sure that periods are in the right place, but a typo isn't going to write off your entire application, but you want to make sure you're putting your best foot forward. Last point, we don't track demonstrated interest, but things like a Why UChicago essay is your chance to again, show us why you're excited about UChicago. So while we might not say, okay, this person showed up to a tour and here are points for going to an information session, instead, whether you learn about something in person or online in a virtual setting, that Why UChicago essay or why fill in the blank school essay is your chance to say, here are some specific reasons why I want to attend, and a different way of showing demonstrated interest.
Any recommendations on topics to avoid for the essay? Is there anything that's out of bounds that kids should not write about? That can be to anyone if you feel comfortable.
Usually what I say for students is imagine that you're sitting across the table from me and you're going to read your essay out loud. You need to make sure you'd be comfortable actually saying everything that you write in your essay to me in person. So that's what I usually recommend. You don't want to be so shocking that it's something that we pass around the office and you're like, can you believe this? Because that happens. I will be honest with you. You want to use this as an opportunity to put your best foot forward. I mean, of course you want to be memorable, but you don't want to be memorable for the wrong reason. So cussing, which I have seen before in an essay, is shocking, but not necessarily in a good way. You want to be professional and think of this like almost like go in with the same attitude as like a job interview where you are putting your best foot forward. You want to come off as professional. Of course, you want to share your voice and help us get to know you as a person, but you want to do that in a professional way. So that's my recommendation for being appropriate in an essay.
I think Lauren had really good advice on her last point about choosing a topic that you're excited to write about. I think students sometimes get really fixated on one particular prompt, like the one about overcoming something, for example. And you do not need to have torn your ACL to get into college. You don't need to have had a long medical history to get into college. And sometimes people go racking their brains for something that sounds triumphant and the trajectory of, oh, something went terrible, but now it's better. And I've read probably 10,000 essays at this point, and I've read upwards of 20 about pet goldfish dying in elementary school. And they try to make it sound like super epic and, oh my God, like how did I ever dig myself up by the, pick myself up by the bootstraps after that? Like, and it's okay. It's okay if you haven't had a hard life. It really is. So, don't make your worst story like because you think it's the best prompt. Like choose your best story and make it work for the prompt that is exciting for you. So that's my advice there. Don't get too fixated on one specific question.
Thank you. So now I think I'm turning it over to Ms. Bossert because we're going to do the breakout room.